Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, folks, the Vols versus Ball State. That was a fun game. I'm going to give a reaction and grades for the position groups, and things couldn't have gone much better. That's pretty much a butt whooping is what that was, and that's a great way to start out the season. You know, everybody got to play. You had a lot of second stringers, even some third stringers in there. A lot of freshmen got to play, and everything went really well. I could not have been more pleased. You know, I was walking around today after that game kind of feeling like this.
Well, you just never know when another beast might come down out of the forest.
Yep, I was feeling pretty good about the Vols today. Golly, it was so good to see them playing again. And that offense is just so magical. It really is. I would extend Josh Heupel's contract already. I would have at the end of last year. But, you know, that's me. I was worried he was going to go to Oklahoma. It's really a joy to watch that offense. It just is. And I'm going to go over the position groups, but let's take a look at some of the stats real quick, and then we'll get into all those different groups. All right, you can look at the first downs. Tennessee had 32, BSU had 17. And then when you get into rushing yards, we had 218, they had 74. So, I mean, that just couldn't have gone better. We averaged 4.3 yards a rush. Well, I'd like to see that a little bit higher. They averaged 2.7. And then passing, we had 351. It could have been higher than that. I think we kind of took it easy on them towards the end. They had 269. I didn't care for that, but it's, you know, it's not terrible, especially when you add it to the rushing yards. They didn't have much yardage. You can see we're averaging 10 yards a catch. That's a good number. Total offense of 569. They had 343. They had twice as many penalties as we did. And time of possession was equal. That's pretty rare for us. Normally, we don't have the ball quite as long. Now, I'm going to start out with actually two position groups because they performed extremely well, and that's the quarterbacks and the offensive line. They get this grade right here. Yep, A+++. They couldn't have done a better job. Quarterbacks were great. I was really pleased with Joe Milton. He came out and looked good. Real good, as a matter of fact. I mean, I think he had one pass that was kind of questionable. It was a little too high, a little too hard in the offense. You know, it's been kind of his little problem. But the rest of his throws were really excellent. And when he takes off and runs, whoo, he looks like a gigantic gazelle. But, of course, Hendon Hooker played his typical great game, which is what he does. And you look at his numbers here, 18 for 25, 2 touchdowns, ran 2 touchdowns, had 1 sack. I mean, he just played great. And you can see Joe Milton, 8 for 9. That's ideal. And he had that 1 pass. My gosh, that was a perfect pass. Looked like a bullet. And their quarterback had a little bit of success, but 2 interceptions. So I was real pleased with the secondary getting those 2 interceptions. And then as far as running the ball, I think I'm going to give the running backs a B. It's hard to give them an A. They didn't have a great game. They had a good game, you know, and they did a good job. They were solid. Let's look at their numbers. Let's see, Jalen Wright had 88 yards with a 6-yard plus average. That's good. Jabari Small, he could have done a little better, but not bad. 13 times, 63 yards. They were keying on him. They knew he was going to be the number 1 running back. And then we got to see Dylan Sampson. He ran the ball 10 times. A real quick back, and I think he also caught a nice pass too. He's got real good hands. There's that run by Joe Milton, 1 for 21 yards that just, he should run more. Man, he's a good runner. And Hooker, of course, had his 2 touchdowns, which was great. And then lastly, I'm going to give a grade of the wide receiver. I'm just going to give them like an A, maybe an A- at worst. You know, they were real solid. They didn't do anything just crazy good, but they were just, he threw to so many of them. I mean, look how many guys caught passes here. Cedric Tillman, which of course, you know, he's our number 1. He had 6. Then Holiday had 4. Ramel Keaton had 4. Brew McCoy, you know, first time he's played in 12 years, I think. He had 3. Jalen Hyatt, their Squirrel White, had 3. You know, I'm not shocked by that. I told you I thought he might be the most outstanding freshman this year. We'll see. And then this guy finally caught himself a touchdown. That was nice to see. And then Dylan Sampson had his catch and so on and so forth. So the offense just did a really great job, and it's hard to criticize much of anything that they did. It was just that good. Outstanding, really. So now we'll get into the defense. All right. Now the defense overall, I'm going to give them an A for one simple reason. They only scored 10 points. And they only got, 300 yards total, a little over 300. I mean, they did a solid job, and they were very vanilla. They didn't do anything special. I didn't see a whole lot of blitz packages or anything like that. So, I'm just going to give them a solid A, maybe an A-, something like that. A real nice outing. So I was real pleased with the defense overall. And those 2 interceptions, that's why I'm going to give them an A. You get 2 interceptions, that bumps you up. Without those, I'd have probably done like a B+ or something. But you get 2 interceptions, that bumps you. And as far as the defensive line is concerned, I'm going to have to give them 2 grades. I'm going to give them a real solid A on rushing. I mean, they only rushed the ball for, 70-some-odd yards? I mean, that's an A. I don't care what you say. Now, the defensive line, as far as being able to rush the quarterback, put pressure on the quarterback, and get sacks, I'm going to have to go C+. Yep, sorry about that, but no sacks. That's no bueno. And that's the one thing that I'm concerned about with this team is, we've got to put pressure on the quarterbacks. And I know it was vanilla defense. I get it. We didn't do any, they were throwing the ball quickly. They were trying to make sure they got it out of the quarterback's hands. And but we just didn't put enough pressure on the quarterback. And they did have some success, 270 yards, I believe. So, that was the one disappointing part. I wanted to see our edge rushers really get in that backfield. But as far as an overall grade, the defensive line did fine. Now, as far as the secondary is concerned, those 2 interceptions pushes them up to like an A-. They gave up some yards, and there was a little bit too much distance between them and the wide receivers, and they let them hit those first downs a little bit too easy. But 2 interceptions, so I'm going to give them like an A-. But, that's a real solid grade. And like I said, I think we were playing a little bit, not real aggressive. I think they were just kind of getting everybody's sea legs under them. And that's what it felt like to me. So, overall, they did real well. As far as the coaches, I'm going to give them a real solid A. Josh Heupel, what I think of him. I would have no other coach. I would have no other coach but Josh Heupel. Maybe a much younger Nick Saban, I would take him. Maybe over Josh. I don't know, though. This day and age, I'd probably go Josh Heupel. So I'm just, overall, I was real pleased with the coaching. Solid. I didn't see any big mistakes. I just saw them in total control. So I loved it. Now, next week, we got Pittsburgh. And, of course, I watched West Virginia at Pittsburgh, and Pitt got real lucky. That pick 6 that literally hit the guys right in the hands, popped out of his hands, and then the Pittsburgh guy caught it and ran back for a touchdown, which totally changed the complexion of the game. That was huge for Pittsburgh. So they're going to be flying high. Now, we did catch a break. The game's at 3:30 instead of 7 o'clock. It's easier to play at 3:30 when you're playing away because people are a little bit less fired up. If you know what I mean, intoxicated. Anyway, so there'll be a less of that. But so 3:30 is a little bit better time. It's going to be tough because they're going to be excited after winning that game against West Virginia, and they're going to feel a little lucky too because that was a lucky win. So I think they're going to be flying high up there and going to be excited. So we should have a great game next week. And I'm looking for a little bit of revenge on that game. And Hendon, I think, will have a good game. He's probably going to have to get that ball out a little quicker. Look, he had all dadgum day back there against Ball State. I mean, I saw him back there reading a paper and drinking a cup of coffee at one point. It's like, Hendon, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, he put the paper down and threw a touchdown. But it's not going to be like that against Pittsburgh. They got a real good defensive line, and they're going to put some pressure. And if you noticed what they were doing against West Virginia, they were blitzing heavy. So they're going to try to put a lot of pressure on Hendon Hooker. But you best be careful doing that against UT because we will bust you. And we'll bust you big time for a touchdown real quick. You put too much pressure on that, and you leave those guys one-on-one against Cedric Tillman and all those speedsters that we've got. I think that could be a little bit tricky. All right, folks, and that's just a reaction and grades, and I'm sure you're real happy with the way things went. I know I am. I was thinking 45-10 is what they'd win by, and I missed it by 2 touchdowns. They wound up scoring almost 60, 59-10, so that's outstanding. I tell you, that crowd was – it's nice to be a UT Vol right now. It's fun to watch them play. It's very exciting. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know to continue to cover the Vols. And if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.